Like the member for Kingston is not getting into cabinet after all.
There you go.
Some people bring happiness wherever they go, others bring happiness whenever they go. Mr. Speaker, this is a 2-month tax trick that will print cash, add to inflation, and make Canadians worse off. And if the Prime Minister disagrees, why won't he stop being so weak? Why won't he have the courage to call a carbon tax election and allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
Canadians elect members of Parliament to be their voice in Ottawa, not Ottawa's voice or their leader's voice in their communities. But the Conservative leader shamefully puts his own interests ahead of Canadians. We announced a tax break for all Canadians, a $250 rebate to put more money in the pockets of working Canadians, and Conservative MPs know their constituents want this, need this, and support this, but the Conservative leader is muzzling them and forcing them to vote against direct support for Canadians. Shame on him.
The Prime Minister's radical liberalization of hard drugs has been lethal for Canadians, 47,000 of whom have died of overdoses since this Prime Minister took office, more than died in the Second World War fighting for Canada. Overdose deaths are up 200%, and now our American friends say they may hit us with tariffs because of the Prime Minister's liberal policies on fentanyl. How many lives and jobs is this Prime Minister willing to sacrifice for his radical liberal agenda?
Speaker, we are using all the tools at our disposal to save lives and keep communities safe for everyone. Meanwhile, Conservatives are choosing to use struggling people as political props to spread fear and misinformation. From the very beginning, we have been there to work on an evidence-based, compassionate public policy, public health approach. We have been there and we will always be there to work with provinces and territories to meet this time of crisis. While the Conservative leader plays politics, we're going to be there to support Canadians grounded in science and evidence.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the science and evidence are now proven. After 9 years of radical liberalization of drugs, overdose deaths are up by 200%. And the worst overdose numbers come from British Columbia, where the policies have been most radically and enthusiastically implemented. But the NDP Liberals claimed that they were backtracking on decriminalization because it became so unpopular. Just this week, NDP Liberals voted for a committee report that called for full legalization of hard drugs. Will the Prime Minister admit that is his real agenda?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, having an evidence-based and a science-based approach, compassionate public policy approach grounded in health care to the opioid epidemic is what we need to do, not just to save lives, but to create safer communities. While the Leader of the Opposition plays politics and uses suffering people as props to propagate a brokenist view of this country, we're going to continue to roll up our sleeves, work hard with provinces and territories to respond to this tragedy, to make sure we're putting Canadians first in everything we do.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's radical drug agenda is not the only thing that is broken. Our economy is broken as well. We now have 2 million people forced to go to food banks every single month, a 38% increase in chronic homelessness, 1,400 homeless encampments, and just today, Equifax reported that consumer debt is $2.5 trillion. We have the worst household debt of all G7 countries. When will he call a carbon tax election so that we can fix everything he broke?
Speaker, the answers the Conservative leader is putting forward to the challenges of Canadians facing homelessness or the challenges of food banks is to cut the programs that are actually investing in direct supports for people. Whether it's money we're investing in municipalities and provinces to reduce encampments and to build more homes quicker, he wants to cut that. Whether it's the money we're moving forward directly to schools across the country so they can deliver more schools and more food and take pressure off of grocery bills, he's voted against that, Mr. Speaker. His only agenda is cuts and austerity while we help Canadians.